At 0612 hours local time, a US Navy MH-60R Seahawk call sign Saber 71 hovered at 800 feet above the Gulf of Aden, scanning the blue-gray horizon for threats. Below her, the Liberian flag tanker Endeavour Spirit pushed through the choppy waters of the internationally recommended transit corridor, flanked to the east by the guided missile destroyer USS Mason. To the untrained eye, it looked like just another quiet patrol until it wasn't. Just off the starboard bow of the tanker, a fast-moving skiff broke formation from a fishing cluster. 5 men on board, 2 standing. Saber 71's tactical systems lit up the surface contact. One man raised something long and dark, possibly a PKM. Another reached into a crate and yanked out a tube that looked all too familiar. An RPG-7 launcher, the pirates' weapon of choice when they want to look serious. Within seconds, muzzle flashes erupted from the boat. Yellow sparks lanced into the air. Tracers from AK-47s, ripping skyward, completely ignoring reality. One round ricocheted off the Seahawk's left sponson. No injuries, no damage. But the message was clear. These pirates just opened fire on a US Navy helicopter. Big mistake. Saber 71's pilot banked hard right, climbing to 200 feet in a sharp escape maneuver. The door gunner slid the M240 into firing position as the crew lit up the comms. Hostile fire detected Saber 71 taking evasive. Request ROE clarification. On board the USS Mason, CIC confirmed the rules of engagement within seconds. Hostile act confirmed. Proportional response authorized. Below, the skiff tried to scatter, but it was already too late. These pirates weren't shooting at a random bird. They had aimed their fire at one of the most advanced maritime helicopters in the world. Bristling with sensors, firepower, and backed by an entire US Navy destroyer battle group. They didn't know it yet, but they had just stepped into the wrong fight on the wrong day and with the wrong bloody target. And what happened next? Well, it made it very clear that they wouldn't get a second chance. Saber 71 climbed fast, rotors roaring as the pilot pulled the Seahawk into a hard bank to starboard, punching out countermeasure flares that burned white-hot against the pale morning haze. The crew wasn't panicking. They were trained for this. But when someone on a fiberglass skiff dares to open fire on a US Navy aircraft, there's zero margin for error. Contact bearing 1,600 meters off the tanker's bow. Tracers confirmed. The co-pilot called out, eyes locked on the tactical screen. The FLIR operator panned his sensor back onto the skiff. 5 heat signatures, 2 actively shooting, 1 with a launcher still shoulder-mounted. Saber 71's door gunner didn't hesitate. The M240 machine gun spat out a warning fire. A tight burst across the bow of the skiff, designed to rattle cages without punching holes. 7.62 NATO rounds churned up the sea. Close enough for the spray to hit the men on board. Let's see if they still feel brave, the gunner muttered. Down below, the skiff cut throttle. 2 men dropped their weapons. 1 double for cover. The RPG was gone. Tossed or jammed. Hard to tell. Back on Saber 71, the pilot pulled into a wide loop, maintaining visual and sensor lock while opening comms with the USS Mason. This is Saber 71. Hostile fire confirmed. 1 RPG, small arms discharge. Skiff stationary. No casualties on our end awaiting surface response. On board the USS Mason, the response was immediate. Our RHIB teams launching Lancer 72 airborne in 90 seconds. Maintain overwatch. While the crew stabilized their position, the Seahawk systems kicked into full surveillance mode. Radar swept low across the waterline. FLIR tracked every movement on the skiff. No more weapons visible, but no one was celebrating just yet. Because this wasn't just a random act of desperation. It had the markings of a probe, testing US reaction times, ROE limits, and maybe even baiting a larger engagement. From the water, the MH-60R Seahawk doesn't look like much, just another gray bird circling overhead. But that's where the illusion ends. What the pirates didn't realize, what they never see coming, is what the helicopter actually carries. Because Saber 71 isn't just a camera with rotors. It's a flying weapons platform, sensor suite, command node, and sniper post Allen 1. Mounted in the left and right crew windows is the M240 machine gun. 7.62mm gas-operated belt-fed capable of laying down 650 rounds per minute. That's over 10 rounds per second. The gunner doesn't just shoot. He sculpts arcs of suppression across the sea within meters of a moving target. Not enough to sink a boat, unless they wanted to. And then there's what they didn't use today, but could have. AGM-114 Hellfires. Laser-guided air-TOS surface missiles designed to take out tanks, radar stations, and speedboats that don't know when to quit. A Seahawk can carry 4. That's 4 separate "please don't make us press this button" warnings hanging under the wings and sensors. Let's start first with the FLIR forward-looking infrared. It sees heat, not color. Even in pitch darkness, a pirate gripping a rifle lights up like a bonfire. That sensor feeds into the pilot's HUD and the tactical coordinator screen in the back. What the pilot can't see, the backseater does. And that radar dome underneath there, that's not there for just decoration either. It's a multi-mode AESA radar capable of tracking sea-skimming missiles, speedboats, or a drifting oil drum at 20 nautical miles. Add in sonobuoy deployment, GPS gridlock capability, and real-time data links back to the USS Mason, and you're looking at a flying nerve center for the entire surface battle group. But it's not just about what's on board the Seahawk, it's what it's going up against. Most pirates' attacks rely on aging but deadly tools. AK-47s, often Type 56 knockoffs from China. RPG-7s with decades-old warheads. Sometimes even DSHK heavy machine guns bolted to the bow of a skiff. They don't aim. They point and spray. It works sometimes against cargo ships, civilian tankers, unarmed crews, but not today. Not against Saber 71. Because when you shoot at a helicopter like this, you're not just inviting a firefight. You're triggering an entire US Navy task force to turn and look in your direction. And believe me, you don't want that kind of attention. What just happened to Saber 71 isn't unique. It's part of a long and messy pattern in one of the most dangerous maritime corridors on Earth, the Gulf of Aden. A stretch of water just 500 kilometers long, bordered by chaos and patrolled by warships that never get to relax. Pirates here aren't just the cliché barefoot teenagers with homemade rifles anymore. They're organized. They use GPS. They track shipping lanes. And more than once, they've made the mistake of going after the wrong target. And then there's the bigger picture. The Gulf of Aden connects the Arabian Sea to the Suez Canal, making it one of the most heavily trafficked shipping lanes in the world. You've got oil tankers, container ships, LNG carriers. They all pass through, which makes them high-value targets. Slow-moving, lightly manned, barely armed. Perfect prey. That's why navies from over 30 countries, the US, France, China, India, even Russia rotate ships through Combined Task Force 151. Their mission, counter-piracy, search and interdiction, escort operations like the one Saber 71 is flying on right now. But pirates don't just fire to kill. Sometimes they fire to provoke, to distract, or to test what happens when they cross the line. Because here's the thing, they don't always know what they're pointing guns at. In the haze of early morning, a gray helicopter could be mistaken for a civilian bird. An RHIB could be confused with a fishing boat. Sometimes their own arrogance blinds them. That's what happened this morning. They thought they were harassing a soft target. Instead, they rang the doorbell of the most powerful navy in the world. And now, that navy is about to knock back. On board the USS Mason, the bridge was already in motion. The moment Saber 71 confirmed hostile fire, the watchstander snapped into their rehearsed protocol. Alarms weren't blaring. This wasn't chaos. It was pure execution. Bridge CIC launch RHIB teams. Lancer 72 is cleared hot. Maintain visual on skiff. 2 RHIB's rigid hull inflatable boats were lowered into the water with surgical speed. Each carried a visit board search and seizure or VBSS team. Heavily armed, highly trained, and not in the mood to negotiate. Above them, a second Seahawk, call sign Lancer 72, lifted off from the flight deck, slicing through the air to provide top cover. That makes 2 Navy helicopters now circling the target zone, one stabilizing, one fresh and fully armed. Downrange, the pirate's gift was dead in the water, its engine still warm, but its spirit cracked. The RHIBs approached in pincer pattern. Bows bouncing through the morning chop. Laser rangefinder swept across the hull. Every movement on the skiff was tracked. The pirates knew the game was over. Some tried to hide weapons under tarps. Others raised their hands. That didn't help. US Navy dropped all weapons and remained seated. The VBS team leader shouted through the bullhorn. M4S locked on target. The lead RHIB closed within 20 m. The second flank left, cutting off any hope of escape. The pirates didn't move. They complied. Boarding commenced. AK-47s were recovered, arrested RPG tube, multiple GPS units, radios still set to civilian frequencies. This wasn't their first attempt and likely not their last. The men were zip-tied and detained on the RHIB's decks, eyes down, hands bound. The skiff was inspected for hidden compartments or explosives. Clean, no explosives, just desperation. Back on the Mason, the arrest log was already filling in. Another interdiction, another group of armed pirates taken off the water. But there was no cheering, no celebration because everyone on that destroyer knew exactly what this meant. There would be more. More skiffs, more boldness, more idiots with RPGs who think that they can shoot at helicopters and live to tell the story. That's why this response isn't just fast, it's full spectrum. Air, sea, electronic warfare, coordination across command structures. The Mason wasn't just reacting. It was projecting presence, showing that even in a 500-kilometer stretch of lawless sea, order still has teeth. And on this morning, those teeth just bit back. What unfolded with Saber 71 and the USS Mason isn't a lucky break. It's standard operating procedure backed by decades of doctrine, billions in tech, and crews who train for this exact moment. Every US Navy carrier strike group moves with a bubble of layered security around it. And at the center, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, floating airfield, nerve center, and hard target. But the real workhorses in piracy zones are the destroyers and cruisers riding shotgun ships like the USS Mason. Their job to escort high-value merchant vessels, monitor hostile zones like the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and intercept threats long before they reach their target. How? Well, first the airborne eyes. Seahawks like Saber 71 and Lancer 72 run wide area overwatch patrols flying racetrack patterns 10 to 50 miles out with FLIR radar and data link feeds. They cover more ocean in 1 hour than a warship can see in 4.
Second persiste surveillance.
MQ-8B fire scout drones or Scan Eagle UAVs are often deployed ahead of convoys. Silent, low profile, and constantly feeding intelligence back to the ship. Third, electronic detection. Navy ships scan the electromagnetic spectrum, listening for radio chatter, GPS signals, and even burner phones left on by careless pirates. Fourth, surface interdiction. RHIB teams launch fast, low, and armed to the teeth. They don't ask questions unless it's strategic. And finally, if escalation is required, strike. Assets from the carrier can be airborne in minutes. FA-18 Super Hornets aren't just for air-to-air combat. They can re-precision fire on pirate staging areas, skiff motherships, or radar signatures gone dark at the wrong time. The Navy doesn't hunt pirates like cops. It hunts them like predators with eyes everywhere, speed at every level, and the power to flip the situation in seconds, which is exactly what happened this morning. The pirates just didn't know how much was watching them until it was already way too late. Back on board the USS Mason, the detainee pirates sat zip-tied in silence under the watchful eyes of armed sailors. In military terms, it was a cleanup. No US casualties, minimal force, and a successful interdiction. But in intelligence terms, it was gold. The handheld radios, GPS trackers, and satellite phones recovered from the skiff would be sent to CENTCOM for analysis. Every contact pinged, every route tracked, every call traced. It wasn't just about 5 men in a boat. It was about the network behind them. Who armed them? Who directed them? And who's next? The Seahawk crews rotated out, their mission complete. But the debriefs had just begun. From the pilot's seat to the CIC on board Mason, every move was documented and evaluated. Why? Well, because in the world of anti-piracy, no engagement is ever routine. Every contact is a rehearsal for the one that won't go as planned. And make no mistakes, pirates watch, too. When the word spreads that a skiff crew opened fire on a US Navy helicopter and ended up zip-tied on the deck of a destroyer, it echoes far beyond one incident. It changes behavior. It resets the risk equation. It makes the next pirate think twice. That's the real power of presence. Because the truth is, Saber 71 wasn't just defending a ship. It was defending a message. This ocean is not yours. And while the pirates fired first, the Navy didn't even flinch. It executed with speed, with control, with clarity.
No overkill, no hesitation.
Just a professional response to a very bad decision. And next time that response might not stop at a warning fire. They brought AKs to an airborne gunfight and somehow acted surprised when things didn't go their way. Today, 5 pirates found out exactly what happens when you open fire on a US Navy Seahawk. No second chances, no escape, just precision response from sea and sky. But here's the bigger question. Should US Navy helicopters be allowed to engage more aggressively in piracy zones even before being fired upon? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Would faster actions save more lives or risk unintended escalation? We want to hear your take. And hey, if you made it this far, you're officially one of the sharp ones. Thanks for watching and staying with us through every twist of this operation. Do you want to go a step further and support the channel directly?
Join the fleet.
You get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help us bring more true maritime stories to the surface. Just click join on our channel page and come on board. More edge-of-your-seat breakdowns, more real-world military missions, more stories that don't make the headlines but should. Until next time, keep your head on a swivel, your comms open, and remember, if you ever see a Seahawk hovering overhead, wave, don't shoot.